Hello, and welcome to the OriginMD channel. This is a KLD and Origins only, red and blue, or Izzet deck that aims to gain advantage in the mid-game by casting our synergistic artifacts. It's assumed you've already watched the level 1 video, discussing which set to build up first, and level 2 video regarding the basic types of decks there are in Magic. Watching level 3 main videos is recommended for your understanding, but not required. This deck works by surviving early game versus aggro and building up advantage that is enough to overwhelm your opponents in mid and late game. The deck starts coming online from turn 4 and is extremely comfortable with board stalls, as long as you have some key cards in play. Hyper-aggressive decks can overrun you, so try to start your hand with removal or cheap creatures to stem aggro and put pressure on control decks. Your board advantage is conditional on having many creatures and thopters on the board, so you will be vulnerable to board wipes. Depending on when you play in the cycles discussed on level 2, you might reach as high as rank 30 to 40 with this deck. Although by adding more sets, such as Aether Revolt, this deck can become even more powerful. This deck did surprisingly well in both KLD and Aether Revolt seasons. Reckless Fireweaver might not look too powerful at first glance, but having any of our artifacts deal damage to the opponent is extremely useful, and our thopters can get tremendous value when they enter the battlefield with Fireweavers on the field. Augmenting this theme, we have a Thopter Engineer that grants haste to our artifacts, Chief of Foundry that buffs them all, and Thopter generators like the Whirler Rogue that can also give our vehicles unblockable. To deal with problematic threats, we have full copies of Harness Lightning and Exquisite Firecraft that can double as a burn. In the mid and late game, finishing off opponents with vehicles that have haste is a decent plan B, but Doom is here for protecting our artifacts from targeted removal and card draw. It can be a real problem for our opponent if left unchecked. Now, let's discuss each card in more detail. Bombard Courier is a 1/1 artifact with haste that can be used to accumulate additional cards face down, and has decent synergy with the rest of the cards in the deck. Glintless Crane is more of a test for the deck. It proved to be a good card to stem opponent's aggression with flying creatures. It also lets us select relevant artifacts for us from the library. However, it's a candidate for replacement. The Reckless Fireweaver is the key card in our deck and our plan A. Any artifact that enters the battlefield will ping our opponent for 1 damage, meaning it can get out of control very fast. And if we have more than one on the field, oh boy! Smuggler's Copter is one of the best vehicles in KLD. It's a 3/3 for 2 mana that can be accrued with only 1 power, has evasion, and can shuffle through our library. Harness Lightning is our removal of choice, perfect against early game threats and vehicles. Esper works well with Thopter Engineer if it has haste, but has mostly given way to other cards in the deck. Can be replaced if you wish to do so. Pionala synergizes well with the rest of the deck, creates a Thopter token, buffs our artifact creatures, and can stop our opponent's blockers. Thopter Engineer is our plan B. Having haste on our Thopters and vehicles that enter the battlefield should make opponents think twice before committing to an attack, as the damage from us can accumulate very fast. If we have the opportunity to race our opponent, why not do it? Chief of the Foundry counts as an artifact that can buff other artifacts with +1/+1. Cultivator's Caravan can shine in the deck. We have quite a few demanding cards in terms of having 2 blue or 2 red mana sources. The mana fixing and the upside of making it unblockable with Whirler Rogues is quite relevant for our game plan. Exquisite Firecraft provides 4 damage to a creature or player, meaning it's a versatile spell that can close out the game or swing it in our favor. Saheeli Rai can make copies of our creatures, such as Whirler Rogues, for additional artifact tokens that can attack with haste with an engineer on the field. Saheeli can also copy our vehicles for 1 turn to make that final push. In the case of a board stall, she can help with a scry and 1 damage ability, so the 3 converted mana cost is justified. Padib is an interesting card. It's the only card in Magic Duels that can give hexproof to all our artifacts on the board. With the Aether Revolt meta that has shifted away from mass removal spells due to vehicles, opponent would have to get rid of Padim before he has a chance to take out the thopter army. Having costly artifacts on the battlefield also benefits us because it allows us to draw additional cards. World Rogue is a versatile artificer that generates 2 thopters for us. Having the option to make creatures unblockable is the icing of the cake. Fleetwheel Cruiser has haste and can attack on the turn it's cast without being crewed. Almost always a good draw if we would like to attack, and can deal damage opponent's dynamic entry with a Fireweaver in play. Drawing cards in the mid-game while generating new tokens is the dream come true with the Thopter Spy network, if it can stay on the battlefield long enough. However, it's a very slow card, and we have only one of them in the deck for this particular reason. Chandra is a versatile planeswalker that can provide additional direct damage to the opponent, provide a little ramp and red mana fixing, take care of a 4 toughness creature, and straight out win the game with her ultimate ability. Sky Sovereign can wreak havoc on our opponent if we can grant it haste with our engineer. This is not a card you'd want to see in your opening hand, but it can punish planeswalkers and is a very decent finisher. As for the mana base, we've got 6 islands, 7 mountains, 2 Sulphur Falls, and 2 Inventor Spheres to get some additional life from the artifacts we have. 1 Rogue's Passage to make our creatures unblockable, 3 Foundry of the Consuls to generate additional thopters, and 3 Aether Hubs for additional mana fixing. Now that we have discussed the cards, let's play. Alright, we are on the play, and I think this is a good enough hand. Let's keep it. Let's play out a mountain. I think we want to play out the Smuggler's Copter first, then the Reckless Fireweaver to start getting in for some damage. Our opponent has green and white, so colors that are good against artifacts and enchantments if he does pack the Reclamation Sage, or perhaps even something like Fragmentize from Kaladesh. This can be problematic. Alright, this is not a card you see very often, it's a Warped Landscape. It's interesting to see what his plan is. So I think we want to go for a Fireweaver here, and we want to activate the Copter. I also don't see any big creatures that I need to use the Rogue's Passage for, so I'm going to not only attack but use the Smuggler's Copter ability. And the Rogue's Passage goes to the graveyard. Alright. Let's see what happens next. Renegade map is sacrificed, so this might be some sort of revolt deck. Pulls out a plains. Alright, a Renegade Rallier. This means that he's going to get the Renegade map into the play, which is completely fine. This is like a small ramp for our opponent. And we've got another Reckless Fireweaver. Yeah, I think I don't mind. The question is, do we want to get rid of the Renegade Rallier here for additional 1 damage and for maximum effectiveness? I'm not too sure. I want to keep it for some other creature that he might have. I don't think I'm in a very bad situation at the moment. So I'm just going to attack. Do I want to use the Smuggler's Copter ability or not? I think I'm fine. I quite like the hand that I have right now. Let's see what our opponent does. He has 4 mana available now. Has a lot of revolt triggers, attacks, which is fine. I think we'll gladly take 3 damage here. Alright, Crop Sigil. So is this perhaps some sort of delirium stuff? Displacer, alright. So the golden opportunity has come. I'm quite glad that we didn't waste the Harness Lightning on the Relia. Displacer can be quite a lot of trouble. We do have quite a lot of red mana as well, so what I'm thinking is I'm going to go for a PNLR for additional damage. I'm going to use the PNLR itself to crew the Copter. Since I'm not planning to block the Renegade Relia, I'm going to attack for 5. And I'm going to use the Smuggler's Copter ability to see if I can draw into something better. Alright, something better. I think Padim fits the description. We'll leave our opponent at 7. And we also have the Exquisite Firecraft, which means we are quite close to victory. Solemn Recruit. So it is a revolt deck. Alright, no attacks. Interesting. No other spells either. Well, I think we might just go ahead and attack with the Copter and the Thopter. Let's see which kind of spell he has. Alright, he has an Avacyn. So what we can do is we can sacrifice the Thopter so that Avacyn cannot block, which means we get in for 3 damage. Let's use the ability. Right, we don't really need this mountain here, which means he is going to take 3. And an Exquisite Firecraft will be enough to seal the deal. Thanks for the games. Alright. We have only very expensive creatures and spells, and I like this a little bit better, I suppose. We are the ones who play first. We also have a turn 3 and turn 4 play here. We don't have red mana yet. So let's see how it turns out for us. Alright, here is the red mana. This is good news for us. This means we can go turn 3 thopter Engineer, then maybe a Spy Network or a Chief of the Foundry for additional 2 damage. Let's see which kind of land he's gonna pull. It's at least 3 colors: green, black and white. Alright, we've got quite a lot of interesting cards. I think that a Thopter Engineer number 1 is good enough to start. We'll hit for 1. Let's see what our opponent is going to do. Alright, gifted Etherborn. Death Touch, lifelink 2-3. Not too shabby. I think I don't mind just playing out the spy network and drawing an additional card from the attacking thopter. I have to probably just take the 2 damage from the Etherborn and grant him the lifelink that he needs. All for the sake of drawing cards. And the Harness Lightning is definitely not a bad draw. We are not going to block. Our Chief of Foundry can come into play and attack on the same turn. Alright, a Reclamation Sage, so going to take care of the thopter spy network. Which is fine. So we've got 5 mana, which means we can go for the Chief of Foundry and the Harness Lightning on our opponent's turn. We can also go for Padim, but I think this would not be the most effective use, although this will allow us to draw an additional card. So yeah, why not? Let's go ahead and cast out the Chief of Foundry, attack with both him and the thopter. See if our opponent blocks. Or maybe something like Fatal Push. Let's wait and see. Alright, we get in for 4. Let's wait for our opponent's turn. Although, I don't think he's going to have anything that much more problematic. Yep, Fatal Push is here, as expected. But, on the other hand, we still have quite a few things we can do. This has turned into mid-range against mid-range. Alright, our opponent doesn't cast out anything. We do have an Exquisite Firecraft, but I think what I want to do is just attack with the thopter. And cast out Padim. I do want the card draw, if possible. Alright, Grasp of Darkness, so quite a lot of removal from our opponent. Let's see who will run out of cards first. Our 2 card draw engines have been taken care of, but this is just life. So the risk we have right now is our opponent might have mass removal spells. Still, I think it's fine for us. I am going to take the risk because I can hit for 3 damage here. Alright, Anguished Unmaking on the Thopter Engineer. This means we'll attack for 1, but our opponent has lost 3 life from the Anguished Unmaking, which means he's at 11. Alright, he's going to attack. Might have a mass removal spell, so I'm just going to block with a thopter in order not to take too much damage. Alright. So let's see, we can deal, if our Thopter Engineer comes into play, we can deal 3-5 damage and get an Exquisite Firecraft as well. Since all the mass removal is sorcery speed, And I have the Foundry of Consuls that I can use. I think it's alright for us to just attack. But yeah, I'm not going to use the Whirler Rogue because he can activate the Hissing Quagmire. So just hit for this much. Should I use the Exquisite Firecraft? Yeah, I actually don't mind just doing this. So if our opponent has mass removal, he will have a chance. Alright, let's see. Activates the Shambling Vent. Attacks, which is completely fine. We're just going to ignore the vent. He will be up to 6. Can activate the Hissing Quagmire. But we've got Piano Law here. Let's see, we've got 7 mana with this. So not enough to pop the Foundry of Consuls as well. But I think this will still be enough. Let's see. What if we just pop the Foundry of Consuls? We will have 2 thopters. So we can hit and leave him at 1 life. Alright, what I think I'm gonna do is I'm going to cast out the Piano Law. And then I can buff one of our thopters twice for additional damage. So let's go ahead and attack. Let's buff the first one. Let's buff the second one. Alright, thanks for the games. Let's see, let's keep this hand. We won't really be able to get aggressive until turn 3 or 4, but hopefully we'll draw into something good. Alright, black and white. So, since we don't really have a 2-drop, we can safely just cast out the Highland Lake here. Sylvan Advocate. Alright. Pretty powerful. Let's get a mountain out and a thopter engineer. We can attack for 1. And wait for our opponent's turn. Alright, thopter arrest on the thopter engineer. Attacks for 2. This is fine. We've got another thopter engineer in our hand. Also got an exquisite firecraft, but I think it's a little too early for this. The Sylvan Advocate comes online when he has 6 lands, and we still have time until then. Attack for 2. Alright, 4 mana. I think we actually don't mind just taking this damage in case he has some sort of additional spell that can take care of the Thopter Engineer. Right, green will Liberator, but without the Revolt. So we've got 5 mana now. We can go for a Cultivator's Caravan here, or we can just go for a Fleetful Cruiser. If he double blocks, this is also going to be fine with me. So yeah, I think we're just going to attack. Let's cast it out. Let's go ahead and attack with everyone except for the Thopter Engineer. Let's see how he blocks. We'll leave our opponent at 10. Right, 5 mana. Attacks with both. Probably has something that can trigger Revolt. I think I'm fine with just letting the damage through. So we get hit for 4. Alright. Thopter Rest on the Fleetful Cruiser. Alright, our opponent has been replaced by the AI. Let's see, we can go for a Cultivator's Caravan here, and since of his haste we can attack as well. Alright, that doesn't sound too bad. We also have the opportunity to cast out the Exquisite Firecraft. So I think we're just going to go all in here. Let's go ahead and attack. See if he double blocks or not. Alright, no blocks. I'm also going to spend the Exquisite Firecraft but on the Sylvan Advocate, because I think that having a Whirl of Rogue will be enough to just hit for lethal, making our caravan unblockable, but 6 lands, it would have been a very powerful creature. So no reason to let our opponent have a chance. Alright, scrap your Scrounger. Scrap your Scrounger cannot block. We'll also gain some life from the Inventosphere. Alright, we got ourselves a Harnessed Lightning. Since our opponent is tapped out of mana, we have pretty much guaranteed ourselves a win. We can crew the caravan, make it unblockable, and attack for lethal. Good game. Alright. We've got a lot of Reckless Fireweavers, but we don't have red mana. We are playing first, so let's try and play with this hand. Renegade map, alright. Let's see, we can go for a Foundry of Councils here. It's unfortunate that we don't have Reckless 5 Weavers in our hand, but we do have a turn 3 thopter engineer. That will give haste to Esperzo, of course, if our opponent doesn't have removal. Alright, Reckless 5 Weaver of his own. So definitely a mirror match of sorts. Let's go for the engineer. Attack for 1. Two Reckless 5 Weavers. Alright. This damage can stack pretty quickly. It's going to be an implement of combustion. So we're going to get hit for 2. Quite a good draw for our opponent. And we've got a Reckless 5 Weaver of our own. Still think it's better for us to just go for an Esperzo and hit for 5. Then we can see if we can start building on this. Since it doesn't look like we will have a board stall right there. Alright, Implement of Combustion for 1 also draws a card. Let's see what else our opponent has in store. 3 mana. Right, no attacks. So now we have a question of who do we want to put in our hand. If we draw a land, this will be really good for us. Instead it's going to be a Chief of Foundry. Alright. We can go for an Espazo again. Or we can develop the board with a Reckless 5 Weaver. And then we can start getting some more value out of everything. So I think I'm willing to opt in for the 5 Weaver overall and attack for 1 this turn. Let's see what our opponent has in store. It's going to be an unlicensed disintegration on the thopter engineer. Alright. We do also get hit for 3. Might be a conditional counterspell. Might be something that deals 2 damage. So I'm not really going to block here. I will let the damage through. Alright, and Adventus Apprentice. And 4 mana available. So we finally got our 5th land. Unfortunately, our thopter engineer is no more. So I think I'm willing to go for the World of Rogue here. This means we deal 2 damage to our opponent. And we can fly in for 1 more. And next turn we can be quite difficult to deal with if we get to realize the Chief of Foundry. And if we get 1 more land, we can go Chief of Foundry and an Exquisite Firecraft to close out the game. Alright, our opponent has 5 mana, which means that he can activate the Foundry of Councils wherever he wants. We've got 5 mana as well, and I think we can start off with the Smuggler's Copter and then go into the Chief of Foundry here to play it safe, to stabilize the board stall, so to say. Let's see, do we want to attack? Yeah, I think we do. I don't think he can deal enough damage to us. Let him sacrifice the Foundry. Alright, has an unlicensed disintegration. Well, this is going to deal 3 damage to us. But this also means that he cannot really sacrifice the Foundry of Councils. Let's wait and see what else he has. Alright, he has another unlicensed disintegration. Let's see if he's going to get rid of the Reckless Fireweaver or the Whirler Rogue. Instead it's going to be a Thopter. Very interesting. So all 3 unlicensed disintegrations. Let's go ahead and wait for our opponent's turn. We do have an exquisite Firecraft, so we just have to survive. We know that he cannot deal more damage with unlicensed disintegrations. He can block with the Foundry of Councils, but we can make our Thopter unblockable using the Whirler Rogue's ability by tapping artifacts. So let's wait and see. He might have other interesting tricks up his sleeve. Alright. We gain some life. Okay, we've got 2 exquisite Firecrafts. Let's see, we've got 5 mana here. This means we're more or less going all in here. I don't think he has lifesteal, but if he's going to get rid of the Smuggler's Copter with the spell he has in his hand, if he has some sort of burn, then we might not be able to survive. Still, I think I'm willing to risk it. Let's make the Smuggler's Copter unblockable. Attack. See if he has a removal spell. I am going to use the Smuggler's Copter ability and discard an Esperzoa, since we have no way of granting it haste. Alright. 3 life left. And the exquisite Firecraft. Is it a counter spell he has, perhaps? Well, good game. Alright, opponent plays first. We do have a Reckless Fireweaver here. We only have 2 mana, but I think I'm willing to risk it. Black and red from the opponent. Now, the question is, do we want to play out the Bombed Courier straight away and start accumulating, or do we want to play out the Reckless Fireweaver first? I think I don't mind just collecting a few cards on the Bombed Courier, since on turn 3 and maybe if we get another blue mana on turn 4, we can get value from the Reckless Fireweaver regardless. So let's see what happens. Alright, even more red and black, but so far only tap lands. Let's go ahead and attack. Reckless Fireweaver enters the game. Alright. Olivia's Dragoon, so Madness Vampires. And now we have a choice. We can either take care of it with a Harness Lightning. This will mean that he will have no discard outlets. And discard outlets are quite important for vampire decks, because then he can get a lot of creatures out for the Madness cost and other spells. So I think I don't mind slowing down our opponent a bit more. Let's go ahead and attack and collect more cards on the Bombard Courier. Alright. Olivia, mobilized for war. Very decent creature. Alright, we got ourselves another island. So we can go for Padim to draw additional cards. Or we can go for a Whirly Rogue to get for some additional damage. I think I don't mind just drawing some additional cards with Padim. We are of course not going to attack. Let's see what our opponent is going to do. He's going to attack. Let's see which kind of creatures he's going to cast out or spells. It's going to be a key to the city. Alright, so he can enable madness spells at will. Alright, let's go ahead and go for a Whirly Rogue. We are not able to get the draw cards from Padim, but we will trigger a bit of damage here. We can also just go ahead and attack with everything we have for 3 damage. Let's see what he's going to do. This is just going to be an Arms of the Vein, so he's going to drain 3 life from us, which means he will be down to 14. Alright. Let's see if he's going to pay. Yes, he is. Alright, he has 1 mana, 2 mana. Has Olivia's Dragoon. Let's see if he's going to attack. Alright. He is not going to attack. This is quite good news for us. So let's see, we will have 6 mana, and that means we can cast out the Glintless Crane. And we can cast out the Pianola. Or we can cast out the Pianola and buff one of our thopters when we get in for some damage. I think I don't mind going for a Glintless Crane first. Let's have a look at what kind of artifact we can have. I'm not even going to do anything to it, I'm just going to go for Pianola and leave 1 mana for our Bombard Courier. So what we're going to do is we can deal just 1 damage here, it's not really worth it to make one of our creatures unblockable. Although, even 1 damage is still damage. Let's go for Reckless Fireweaver. Make both him and the Bombed Courier attack. Collects one card. Let's see if he blocks. Now let's discard the Bombed Courier, and now we have even more cards in our hand. Alright, we get in for one. And we do have some good creatures here, and artifacts as well. Collective Defiance. Let's see if he's going to make us discard our hand. Alright, instead he only gets rid of Beyond Alarm. No attacks, alright. So we've got 7 mana now, or we can go for Highland Lake. I think we do want 7 mana here. We can go for Chief of Foundry, Fleetwheel Cruiser. Yeah, that sounds good. We can also make the Fleetwheel Cruiser unblockable. Alright, our opponent has left the game. This is some additional damage. I think we can even just straight up attack, but alright, we'll be quite careful with what we're doing. Just going to attack only with the Fleetwheel Cruiser. Hit for 6. Since our opponent plays a Vampire deck, I don't really think he's going to have mass removal spells. We'll also start drawing more cards from Padim, because we have an artifact that has more than 2 converted mana cost. Right, Collective Defiance on Padim, so we won't be drawing cards. We do have 2 flyers that can block our opponent's creatures though. And we do have the artifacts to make the Fleetwheel Cruiser unblockable. And finally we have the Exquisite Firecraft to just straight up close out the game next turn. Alright. End game, and another Exquisite Firecraft seals the deal. Thanks for the games. I'd like to thank you for watching and see you in the next video.